We can 110% sculpt up and build up a tattoo using just a 3-round liner. This tattoo can have lining, it can have shading, it can have varying line weights as well, textures, dot work. We can do all of that with a 3-round liner. When it comes to sculpting and building up a tattoo, I prefer to use a 3-round liner just because I can be really accurate with where I deposit my ink. So for example, if I start right here, what I'm going to do is I typically start by establishing my boundary, basically the area that I'm not going to go past. I can use a series of dashes like this if I'd like, or I can just use a very faint light one pass line just to establish that boundary, since I am going to be saturating the areas in the surrounding areas. So that's going to be personal preference, to each their own. If you're not comfortable with 3-round liner or one pass lines, then you don't have to do them. But if you are, then you can kind of do that to apply the line and be in and out a bit more easier than creating dashes all the way through. So first things first, I make sure that I establish my boundary. I'm using a Stay-Lite tattoo machine, which is a 4mm stroke machine. You can see I'm running at 5 volts even. So I tend to stay at a lower voltage as well when building up tattoos with a 3-round liner to prevent unwanted trauma to the skin. We have to remember that we're using a very, very fine needle. So as soon as the needle is going more, if the needle goes more rounds, essentially, it's going to be doing more trauma to the skin. The less number of rounds is less trauma to the skin, which is why I'm running at a lower voltage. And then the idea is to establish the boundary first, and then from there we can build off of that to accomplish the line weights that we're going for and to accomplish the details that we're wanting. As you can see right here, I'm bringing this around slowly, and I'm working off just the very tip of my needle. I'm not driving the needle into the skin or anything like that. The sharpness of the needle does majority of the work for me. So right here I have my boundary established and my line weight going. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a series of just small circular motions within those lines to kind of fill them in and make this line weight heavier. And that's the goal. And this is just a part of the process of building up and sculpting a tattoo. Now, if you're wondering if this causes more trauma to the skin, it's hard to say for all artists. However, if the technique is correct, this approach can be really non-invasive and we can be in and out. So it really just depends. If our technique's not aligned, then yes, we can potentially cause more damage. If we are a bit seasoned and familiar with the technique, then we can go ahead and get some really interesting results. So it is going to vary from artist to artist. Not every single artist will overwork the skin. And then for example, these areas right here that I'm getting like these sort of hair textures, for those, I'm going to apply those in a very similar manner. So like for example, if I'm going to be right here, I'm going to move at a bit of a faster voltage range to get a lighter tone of a line, as you can see. Just getting lighter tones. If I wipe away, we shouldn't get really prominent lines. However, we do get, lines that resemble that of textured hair.
So here's my starting point.
Start here, and then we can begin sculpting up to the official line weight that we'd like. So you can see it starts by establishing the boundary, and then from there you can begin adding on to those boundaries as you see fit in the manner that's best deemable for you. Some people will even establish the boundaries using ghost lines, which is completely okay. What that would look like would be something along the lines of, like, for example, just very light, faint lines into the skin, so that way I can go back over and darken them up. That's another way to establish boundaries if you like. You can see that these aren't really prominent, but they are a little bit more saturated than these stock lines that have just a stencil, as you can see. So ghost lining, I feel, is completely acceptable as well, especially if you can do it lightly and comfortably each and every line. And then I'll essentially still build up all of these surrounding areas the same way. Step one, establish the boundary here. Keep in mind, I'm working off just the very tip of my needle. You can see my pace stays at a steady workflow and it doesn't really pick up faster than where I started. I stayed where I started just to provide me with that level of consistency throughout the entire tattoo, as that's important. And then what really ties everything in together after I've established the boundary and applied the line weight integrity and all that are the details. The details and the shading really lock everything in together. So for example, if I go this way right here, I'm gonna go ahead and just apply a little hair detail right here, like so, and then the same thing right here. And then we're gonna do another hair detail right here. I have the entire main frame of the tattoo, you see, outlined and structured here. So now I'm at the next phase where I can begin building up even further by adding the details. So you can see right here in the hair, for example, that it makes it look a bit fuller and more complete. So I'm gonna kind of repeat that process up throughout here with the same needle. So I'm still gonna be using a 3-round liner. When I do this, I'm going to essentially kind of just add the details as I see fit freehand here to help fill out everything here. So you can see, for example, I'm going to add my hair textures like so. And you're going to notice that I move a bit faster as to not deposit full saturated lines. I'm not trying to get full dark lines. I'm trying to get a fainter version of my lines here to kind of mimic that of hair. So same thing right here. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and wipe away. Now if I want a little bit like more density, if I want areas to be a little bit more darker with lines, then I'll simply go back over them, repeating the same process. You can see this area right here, I wanted a little bit more denser. You can see I just added a couple of more lines. Placement doesn't really matter as we're creating hair textures and building up hair textures. So you can see I kind of just threw them in between there, some overlapping, some weren't. It is perfectly okay. And I'm going to repeat right here. There we go. And then I'm going to repeat that with this side right here. And that is the idea of building up a tattoo using sculpting and different line variations here. And the last phase of building up a tattoo with a 3-round liner for me would be to add shading wherever I see fit. So if at all, if we need any shading, that'll be essentially the last phase of it. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of shading right here in the eye and just in some subtle areas, kind of less is more approach here. But that is essentially the workflow of building up a tattoo using just a 3-round liner. I start with establishing the boundaries, whether it's ghost line, and then I start creating the actual line weights. From there, I'll start adding all of the details, and the last part is adding the shades, as you see here. And that right there is the process on how I would go about building up a tattoo using just a 3-round liner tattoo needle. This would apply to pretty much any tattoo that I do. It doesn't matter the design. This would apply to any style as well. Again, it doesn't matter the design. I would still take the exact same approach that I shared with you here in this video. Now, I feel like this is a great place to conclude this video. However, should you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below. I will do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you. With that being said, I appreciate you, your time, and your support. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.